Good morning, everyone. If you can hear me, kindly type in a hi in the comment section below. Hey, Carrie, good morning. I see you. Innocent babe. Oh, well, we will look at that. We will look at that. Good morning, Carrie. Good morning, Bowie. Well, I'll be giving you some gift in the form of a precise entry point today. Okay. It appears my audio system is quite okay. So I welcome you to yet another beautiful day, and it was quite an interesting day for us yesterday. And as we get ourselves prepared for the New York session, we will be looking into some pairs that have high tendencies of going our way. However, before we do so, we will be talking about the pairs we talked about yesterday, and we want to be looking at how far and how well they were doing so far. All right, Mark Jen. Good luck to you too as well. So, let's dive into the chat. And the first thing, oh, I didn't ask after Khan today. Is Khan around? Khan will just bump in within the middle of the session and ask for U UK US oil. An echo? I don't think so. Please kindly check your audio system, please. So, with no much further ado, let's dive into the chat and see what has happened between the last time we spoke, and now. Valerie, ciao to you too. Okay, great. So let's move on, please. So, the first pair we'll be talking about today, we'll be talking about the UkOil, which is okay. On UkOil, we already hit stop loss. Remember, during the course of yesterday, we said we are going to move our stop loss to $112, which finally hit stop loss middle of the New York session yesterday. So now we will have to hold on at this point. And if you will remember what I said yesterday, we are in the supply zone at around $114, which has a very strong memory for selling opportunities in the past. So for the sake of clarity, let me go back to our daily time frame, and as you can see the arrow down, you can see that this area has been a very strong selling niche for the bears, and we are right at that same level at this point. So going back to our 1 hour time frame, we want to look on how we want to take advantage of any opportunity lining up for us at this point in time. So looking closely into the structure, following the stop loss hit, so we had about how many pips around here? We had around 400 pips thereabout. Now that we have the structure right now, and we can see that since the later part of yesterday, we've been seeing that price have been rejecting that supply zone, only to be finding a lower high at this point. And we see a lower high structure. So what does this tell us? This gives us a signal that we might be having a bearish momentum building up at this point. And if you remember vividly what I talked about yesterday, I said we should take into consideration this impulse leg, this impulsive move, which might do a retracement probably into that golden zone area we identified between $110 and $108 thereabout. So definitely there are two ways we can actually trade this. The first one is we look for selling opportunities, and that's going to be a counter trend opportunity, as we can see that like I said, we've been having lower highs at this point, giving us an impression that price might probably be going downwards or probably doing a retracement of that impulse leg we identified earlier. So if we are going to take advantage of that counter trend opportunity that is building up before us, what are the things we need to look out for? So the first thing I want us to look out for is we want to look for a breakdown of that area that has been where we put our stop loss, which will probably be our new key level at this point. That's 112, around $112 area. So we want to be looking for a breakdown of that area, which will probably give us a signal, after which we look for confirmation in the form of a retest of structure moving forward. So for the sake of clarity, allow me to give you a visual representation of what I'm looking out for at this point. So we have a rejection of this trend line right now. And if we see a structure that supports a further downtrend continuation, then we can actually do a sell at this point. However, the most convincing way to take advantage of this bearish move is to look for a breakdown of that key level right at 112 area. Then we look for a retest into that structure, which might also share a confluence with that bearish trend line we identified earlier, after which we look for confirmations to sell the spare to the downside. So we will be having our take profit right within that golden zone area that we identified during the course of yesterday's session. And that's going to be our first TP, because we don't know how far price is going to go. There is a possibility that price might come back into this area where we look for structures that support a trend continuation to the upside. And at the same time, there is a possibility that price could break down to touch that bullish trend line that we identified on the daily time frame before we probably see tractions that supports a bullish momentum. So at this point, we want to have our entry point right below that key level. Okay, our key level is always golden color. Let me give it that golden color here. So we want to be having our entry point right below structure, right below that area, which is more comfortable for us after a confirmation is guaranteed. So we will be having a sell position that looks more like this. We have a TP right inside that area, or probably that key level we identified on the daily time frame. And then we have our stop loss right above that bearish trend line here. So this is what our expectations were going to be going into the New York session on the UK oil. Oh, Plenica, you took silver. Okay, we are not talking on silver right now. Yes. Yes, I'm already giving you a tip. I'm already giving you a tip. Okay, so this is what my expectation is going to be like on the UK oil for now. We aim at around 420 pips. Then, like I said, let me quickly do a recap of what I said. I said I'm looking forward to a breakdown of key level. We're looking for a retest of structure, which might also share a confluence with the bearish trend line. And then we look for structure that supports a trend continuation to the downside. So that's what we're going to be looking out for. And I said we'll have our entry point right below that key level. at 112, which should happen after the confirmation is affirmed. So that is our expectation on UK oil. So moving on, we go into US oil. And before we do that, it is pertinent that I made mention of the fact that remember I said something yesterday about this bullish move where we had a target at $120, and I made emphasis on the possibility that price will break out of that supply zone, which is identified with that key rectangle, that blue rectangle you can see on your screen, after which we look for retest of that area. So the same thing still applies on this one too as well. Even though we are looking forward to a bearish momentum here, there is a possibility also that price could break above that trend line, which could probably give us a signal that a bullish momentum is finally coming in. So, and a retest of that will give us with structures that support a trend continuation to the upside, will give us an opportunity to add to enter the trade to the upside with the target at 120 area and stop loss right below this key level here. So on the contrary to our expectations for selling opportunity, we can be having a bullish momentum right above that trend line where we see $120 as our take profit target and stop loss right below that key level around here. So we have two scenarios we're looking out for on the UK oil, and that is, the first one is if we see a breakdown of that key level, a retest into structure confirms a downtrend continuation, which will probably be a retracement of that impulse leg we identified earlier. And I also said that the second scenario, a breakout of structure, which is a breakout of that trend line, a retest into structure with patterns that support a trend continuation to the upside, we could enter at 113.50 area, after which we look at $120 as our take profit target. Now, let's move on. We move on to US oil at this point. And on the US oil, we are, if you are taking that move, remember during the course of yesterday's live session, we identified, despite the fact that we are on a bullish momentum on the US oil, we identified this ascending channel, which is identified with that red line. We identified this ascending channel, and I made mention that if we do have a breakdown of that channel, then we should be looking forward to an opportunity to take advantage of a selling opportunity as a retest of that structure, which finally happened during the course of yesterday's New York session. And we got our trade triggered at that point. I don't know if anyone took advantage of that bearish move on 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 US oil. So we had that move to the downside. As we can see, we saw price move downwards about how many pips? About how many pips is that? Price moved about 200 pips before we saw this what looks more like a retracement or probably a reversal pattern at this point. So at this point in time, my advice at this point is that we move our stop loss to break even to protect our account or mitigate ourselves against any bullish surprise from this point in the market. So now that we have this kind of scenario playing out on the US oil, what should be our expectations going forward? Now, the first thing I will say is this: move your stop loss to break even for the selling opportunity we took yesterday. And then we want to be looking forward to structures that probably will support a move to either side at this point. Now remember we had a long-term bullish momentum on the US oil also, and we had a take profit target at $122 on the US oil. So now with this downtrend situation happening, we never can tell if this downtrend situation is going to go further down, or probably we will be seeing a breakout of structure at this point to project a bullish momentum to the upside. So let's see what happens during the New York session on this one. And one thing there is, if our break even level is 8, that is price move into our break even, into our stop loss rather, then we should be having a scenario where this area, because now what I'm seeing at this point is this: after this bullish move happened last week, we saw price came down into $108, and then since then price hasn't come back down to that level. As you can see, price continued to find higher lows, though we didn't find higher highs at this point, but we have higher lows, giving us a scenario where price is not going back to that $108 area. So if that is the case at this point, then definitely we should be having a demand zone right around here to guide our actions going forward. So if you allow me, let us place a demand zone here, and then we label it. We give it a label for the sake of clarity. For the sake of clarity, we have demand zone here. So what we're going to be looking forward to at this point, allow me to delete this channel. It's no longer needed. So we want to be looking out for a breakout of structure in the form of breaking out of this level, then probably a retest into structure with, and we look out for patterns that support a trend continuation to the upside. So where will our neckline going to be at this point? If we look left, we can see that we have structure that we can play around with at $111 area, which falls around here. Is it 100? Okay, I think $112 is most precise. Okay, we have structures to play around at $112. So if we have, let's label this $112 for the sake of clarity. Let's place it at the right hand side. So we have $112 here. So one thing here is we really need to see a very, very emphatic signal that will support a bullish momentum, because definitely if you look at what is happening here on the 1 hour time frame, we can see that we have a bearish trend line. Also we have a mini trend line here also, which cannot be ignored at this point, as a breakout of that level could probably give us a signal that we are going uptrend, and a retest of that level could signal a trend continuation to the downside as well. So because of this, we really need to see strong signals that will affirm that bullish momentum that this demand zone is projecting for us. So what we want to be looking out for is a breakout of that key level at $112. Then we look for a retest of that key level, or probably a retest of this bearish trend line, after which we look for setups that support a trend continuation to the upside. So if we have that kind of scenario, definitely our take profit target for the bullish momentum still remains at $122 as expected. So this is what the scenario is going to be like if we have price coming above that $112. So we should be having our stop loss right below that key level, and then we have our stop loss right below that key level around here, and this is what we should be looking out for. And at the same time, if we do have a breakout of this trend line here, and we see a retest of that trend line, Then structures that supports a trend continuation, probably a reversal pattern. It could be a double bottom structure, a 1 2 3 reversal pattern, or probably an inverse head and shoulder pattern at this point. Then we look for a breakout of structure, a retest, then we can be joining the rally. So we have two areas through which we can take advantage of this buy momentum. So let me give us a niche. So within this area is an area we'll be looking forward for buying opportunity at this point. So allow me to label this. So let's give it buying opportunity zone. So anywhere around here appears to be more suitable to take advantage of that bullish move going forward. So around here appears to be suitable with our take profit target at remains at $122. So that is that on the US oil. That's my perspective on the US oil. So moving forward, we go on to USDJPY. And on the USDJPY, remember yesterday we identified a reversal pattern right here on the 1 hour time frame, which also shares a confluence with the supply zone around $128 area, 128 Japanese yen area. Now with that supply zone and the reversal pattern identified, we identified a key level at this point which became our yardstick going into the New York session. Unfortunately for us, we had a breakdown of that structure. We had a retest. We had a breakdown, we had a retest. Price came in, then we hit stop loss. Now price has come back into that entry area. So we are running in profit at the moment. And let's see how many pips is that. We're running in about 17-20 pips thereabouts. So this is a breakdown of that trend line, this trend line that we identified here. So with this trend line, I would also suggest that if we see a retest of this trend line, this will welcome another opportunity for us to add one more position to this trade as we aim at 126.400 area as our take profit target. So on the USDJPY, we are still on course. Things are still moving as expected, so there is no cause to worry on the USDJPY. So we're moving on. We move on to CHFJPY. On CHFJPY, I hit TP1 on CHFJPY with 100 pips during the course of yesterday's trading session, and since price tested 132.500 area, we began to see multiple rejection of this area, giving us a clue into the strength of the sellers at this point in the market. Now, one thing we are not sure of at this point is this multiple rejection a signal that we are going in a long-term bearish, or probably we are actually doing a retracement of that bullish move that happened during the course of yesterday's trading session. So remember I told you yesterday that if you had missed that opportunity, that we could be having a retest of structure for a trend continuation to the upside. So that itself is not yet cannot yet be discarded, as there is still a possibility that price can still come back to our key level at 131,300 for a retest, in the sense that we see something like this, a retest, and we look for structure that supports a trend continuation as we take advantage of that move to the upside. So at this point in time, we already have many pips close to the key level. We are around like 70 pips to our key level. So if you are a counter trend trader, you might want to take advantage of this. But for me, considering the long-term bullish momentum on the CHFJPY, I want to only be looking for any bullish opportunity at this point. So if you allow me, let us identify this multiple rejection area and let's see what we have here. So we already have a bearish trend line forming on this multiple rejection area. And like I said, if you are a bearish a counter trend trader, you might want to be taking advantage of this move to the downside, where we will be looking forward to a retest of this key level for a trend continuation to the upside. So this is my expectation on this one. So we have our buy opportunity around this area. We'll be looking for buy opportunity around this area. From here to here is our buy opportunity area. Then you set your stop loss according to your account size. And where will our take profit target be? Well, considering this impulse leg at this point, this impulse leg here, we will want to be extending that impulse leg into the future. And with our Fibonacci extension tool, we will be having something like this. And then we should be having a take profit target within 127.2% and 141.4% extension. So for the sake of rounding up the figure, let's put it at 133 Japanese yen. So this is what we'll be having as soon as price comes into our buy opportunity zone. Then we'll be looking forward to a bullish move into that area, which will probably give us an approximate of 150 pips on this one. Okay, innocent babe, at what price level did you say we can buy US oil? Okay, US oil, was I precise on that? Let's look at it again on US oil. Let's take us back a little bit. Okay, what I was saying here is this. We already took advantage of the selling opportunity yesterday, and we already moved our stop loss to break even at this point. And as soon as if the stop loss is taken out, then we are break even on the trade we took yesterday. Now we consider this demand zone here. As we can see, the reason why we consider it a demand zone is that we saw that as soon as price came into this level, we saw price finding higher highs, and price then come back down to that $108 area, which gives us a sign that we might be on a bullish momentum, as that demand zone becomes our new demand zone to guide our actions going forward. So what we are saying here is this: to be more clear on this, so that we don't get into a trade where we are not supposed to go into, I said we should look for a breakout of that bearish trend line, that red dotted bearish trend line. Then we look for a retest of that trend line, where we look for structures that support a bullish move. And what do I mean by looking for structures that support a bullish move? We want to be looking for a reversal pattern. It could be a double bottom structure. It could be an inverse head and shoulder. It could be a 1, 2, 3 pattern, reversal pattern. After which we look for a signal, breakout of structure, a retest into structure, and we aim at $122. And like I said, since I'm not going to be with you when you're about to take that trade, I have identified between $110 and $112 as an area that is most comfortable to take advantage of that bullish move. And why is that so? Because this area is right above that bearish trend line, which after which we'll be looking for a retest of that trend line to take that move. I do hope I'm clear on this one, innocent babe. How do we know the right signal to trade? I have mentioned that we have structures that we look out for when we take in trade, and that depends on an individual. For me personally, I look for reversal patterns like this. For instance, if we have an impulse leg and we're looking for a bullish move, if we have a bearish impulse move to the downside, we want to be looking for a reversal pattern that this price tested this area, moved up, price came back down, but it didn't go below the structure. Then we saw price come back up again into this level. That's our neckline at this point. Then a breakout of that neckline is a breakout of structure. Then we look at a retest into that neckline, and we look for a buying opportunity from that area going upward. So what that simply means at this point is we're going to be having something like this. We'll have a neckline to play around with here. So the breakout of this neckline is a signal that a reversal pattern has already been formed. Then we look at a retest of structure to take that move to the upside. So this is what I am talking about when I say we are looking for signals. I hope I'm clear on this. Okay, innocent babe. All right. I'm glad you are. All right. Rich Angel, I'm very sure you understand what I mean by now. I hope it's clear. Okay, moving forward. On Euro CHF, let's go to Euro CHF. On Euro CHF, we identified a bullish momentum on Euro CHF with a key level right at 1.0300 here. We had a key level around this area yesterday, and I was emphasizing yesterday that we're looking forward for a breakout of that key level, which we saw. Then we saw a breakdown into the structure. Then we saw that bullish move from that side. We saw multiple rejection of that key level at this point, and price is moving. So presently, I have two positions running on this one, and we have a total of how many pips in profit right now? We have this one is 38 pips in profit, and the second one here is around 20 pips. So we have a total of 58 pips in profit on this one. So like I said yesterday, this trend line here shall be our guide going into the new week, as we expect price to continue to respect this trend line going forward. And if price comes back to this trend line at any point and we see structures, we see reversal patterns, we might want to add another position to this trade. So we have our take profit target right at 1.04300, though I identified this yellow area as an area where we can take profit, as in between 1.03650 and 1.0440 is okay for our take profit target, as is right between the 50 to 78.6% retracement of this impulse move we identified here. So going into the New York session, if we are not in this trade, I don't know who took advantage of this trade yesterday, please. Oh, innocent babe. Okay. Who took advantage of this trade yesterday? Euro CHF. Hello, Ringo. Okay. So if you are in this trade, kudos to you. Well done. And if you are not, we should be looking forward to probably another retest of that trend line in the future, where we can actually join that rally to the upside. If we see one more test of the trend line, then you can take advantage of that move with your stop loss right on this key level at 1.0300. So that's that on Euro CHF. So moving on to GBP New Zealand. GBP New Zealand yesterday, we made mention of the reversal pattern we identified here on the 1 hour time frame, where we saw multiple rejection of this area. As we can see, we saw multiple rejection of that key level at 1.96700, and finally we had that breakdown of that key level, which also shares a confluence with the breakdown of that bullish trend line. So we didn't take the trade outrightly, so we were waiting for a retest of structure, which finally happened during the early hours of today, and then we saw that beautiful bearish engulfing candle that took market right into 1.93800. So if you are in this trade, kudos to you. We already, how many pips in profit on this one? We already how many pips? We already 50 pips thereabout in this one, and price appears to be going back up again. So if we have price go back into this area again, we look for structures, then we add one more position to this as price continues to go down. So for me on this one, this looks more like a very, very strong breakdown. As we can see, the trend line was broken down after that reversal pattern, and we saw a sharp retest of that of that pattern, which is also a confirmation that the the structure identified is very, very valid at this point. So we have our take profit target at 1.91700, which is right within that demand zone we identified yesterday. As you can see, this area was respected by the buyers, by the sellers rather, yesterday, and we see buyers push price up to the side. So for the meantime, let's see how price react. If price moves into this demand zone, very good, we take our profit. However, if we see a breakdown of that demand zone, then we want to be looking for a retest and a confirmation in the form of a reversal pattern or whatever structure you look out for to join the second wave of bearish move to the downside. Yes, we will talk about gold. We will talk about gold in a sense. Yeah. So, moving on to gold. Thank God we are already in gold. Now, on gold, um, we started with an expectation that we are expecting a bullish move on gold. And the reason why we're expecting a bullish move, if I zoom into what has been happening since mid-April, we saw this strong bearish trend line, which has been respected for over a month now. We saw this bearish trend line respected every time price touches that trend line, it pushes price further down. We saw huge expansion until what happened last week trading session, where we saw just the expansion was not quite strong, and then we saw multiple rejection of this trend line before that breakout of that trend line, giving us a sign that the trend line no longer holds the sellers anymore, as the buyers appears to have taken over the market at this point. Then immediately afterwards, we identified this bullish trend line that is evolving at this point, though it only has two pivots at this point. The first one is here. We have the first one here, and we have a second pivot at this point before we saw that rally to the upside here. So yesterday, I made mention of the fact that we really need to be patient on this one, as we shall be expecting price to come down into somewhere around here, probably the key level or this bullish trend line, or probably price comes back to retest that bearish trend line that was broken during the course of last week trading session. We saw that trend line you saw the trend line was broken here, and there is a possibility that price might come back. You see, after the breakout, price might come back to retest that trend line, after which we look for structure that supports a bullish momentum to the upside. So this is what I made mention of yesterday. However, we saw that price continue to find higher highs. A higher high. Then we saw lower highs followed after the higher high at this point. So what I am actually looking forward to at this point is a counter trend opportunity on the gold, in the sense that, remember I said we are waiting for price to come back down into probably the key level, the bullish trend line, or probably come back to retest that bearish trend line that was broken during the last week trading session, after which we'll look for that bullish momentum. Personally, I told you that I have been expecting that bullish move forever on gold, and I've been waiting for almost 2 to 3 weeks for that bullish move to happen. And one thing that we want to be looking forward to is for that wait. We just need to wait and see how price react, because buying anything at this point, there is no structure when you look left that supports us going forward, because I believe in long-term perspective rather than doing quick buys or quick sells, scalping. I rather do long-term. So one thing I did here was, because of my expectations that I'm waiting for that buy opportunity move, I want to take advantage of that bearish that counter trend opportunity, where we expect price to come back down into this area. So in that regard, I placed the pending order right at $1,857.850, and I also placed another one at 1,855.268, and both of them have already been triggered at this point, and it's already running in profit. The first one is running in profit, whereas the second one is still a little bit close to entry at this point. So I am looking forward to a further breakdown of that trend line here, then a retest, then probably price will come back to this key level for our take profit target in the meantime, after which we look for a bullish momentum going forward. So what's this being said, we really need to take into consideration this bullish move, this bullish trend line here. Allow me to make it a little bit thicker. How can I do that? I don't know why. Okay, I have it here. So if I make it thicker, this bullish trend line really needs to be put into consideration, as if we see price come into this trend line and we see reversal structures around this area, breakout of structure, then that's a signal that the bullish momentum has finally begun. However, if we do have a breakdown of that trend line into that key level, a retest of that trend line, then definitely price will probably want to get back into this trend line that was broken to incite that bullish move to the upside. Yes, gold will go bull, definitely. But when and where is it going to start the bullish move? Because we are waiting for that strong bullish momentum. And the strong bullish momentum is aiming at around TP target around this area, 1920, around this area, thereabout. So when it's going to start is what we don't know at this point. So patience is required. We really need to see signals and good confirmations to hop into that potential rally going forward. So that is that on the gold pair. So moving on. So I think we talked about GBPJPY as well. I think we talked about GBP. Yes, we talked about GBPJPY. GBPJPY took us out in the sense that we hit break even at this point, as we saw price move into around 161 area before it came back down. So as soon as price moved into that area, we moved our stop loss to 160.078, and it took us out at that point, and price has come back down into this bullish trend line here. So for me personally, I'm also looking forward to, so we saw that price retested this bullish trend line at this point. So I am looking forward to a second retest to join that potential rally to the upside. So if I see a second retest, a breakout of structure, I look for confirmations, then I join that potential rally. So we're still aiming at above that key level at 160 area as our guide going into the New York session today. And our entry point still remains above 159.98 area, where we're looking forward to taking advantage of that bullish move into 163.5 area, which is about 350 pips move profit. So this is what we are looking out for on the GBPJPY. So today we have fresh new trades for today, and the first one we had is AUDCAD, which is already in profit at this one. And how did we get by this scenario of selling opportunity on the AUDCAD? Well, the first thing we did was to look at what happened on the daily time frame, and on the daily time frame we confirmed that price is really on a bearish trend, and this could be seen and visually represented by that bearish trend line above after connecting the series of lower highs since the beginning of April. So now we have price back right into that trend line at this point, and we saw a sharp rejection of that trend line yesterday. So for me personally, this is a sign that we might be going further down. And besides that, we cannot ignore the fact that a breakout of that trend line is very, very possible at this point. But at this point in time, we really don't have a signal, or we don't have structures that insinuate that we will be having a breakout of that trend line. So since in the absence of structures that supports or insinuate a breakout of that trend line, then I definitely looked into possibility of selling this move. As we can see, since price tested that, when we go down to the 1 hour time frame, we saw sharp rejection of that trend line multiple times. We saw sharp rejection of that trend line multiple times before we saw the breakdown, which happened late last night. Then we saw the retest of structure at this point before I joined the decline to the downside. So with the key level right at 0.90680, that would be our guide going into the New York session at this point. So with a stop loss of about 20 pips thereabouts, I have this running already with how many pips is that? We have like 25, 23 pips running in profit already. So now that we have this kind of scenario, if you are not in this trade, how can you take advantage of this move if we see another? So we have a trend line here that we can take advantage of going into the New York session. So with the trend line right sitting right above, connecting the lower highs at this point, definitely you might want to be looking forward to a retest of that key level or that trend line at one point in time, and look for structures that supports a trend continuation to the downside. So this is what my expectations are on the AUDCAD going into the New York session at this point in time. So patience is required. Patience is required. We really need to wait and see what happens as price action is being monitored. Then in addition to that confirmation here, on the 1 hour time frame, you can see we have a bullish trend line that we can also use as our guide going into the New York session, and we have it right here like this. We have that bullish trend line here, and as you can see, price has been respecting this trend line since on the 19th of this month. Price has been respecting that trend line, and we saw price come back here. Then we saw a breakdown of that trend line. So we might be looking for a retest into that trend line, that key level. Then if you had missed that entry, you can actually join at retest of that structure going forward. So that is that on AUDCAD. Then on AUDUSD, I have another setup here on AUDUSD, which we can take advantage of. Now, look at what structure has been given us. If we go to the daily time frame, on the daily time frame, this is what we have. It is obvious we are on a bearish momentum as a visual representation of a line connecting the series of higher lows emphasizes this tendency in the market. Price continue to respect that trend line, and now we have found ourselves right back at that trend line at this point. And also, if we look left, we can see that this area also shares some. If we look left, we can see that this area was once a supply zone. We can see it was once a supply zone, and that area as well was once a demand zone in the past. If you look left, you can see that this area has also been a demand zone in the past. Demand is always green. So this gives us a clue into how strong this level at 0.71600 is, as we saw the breakdown of this level during the course of April. We saw a breakdown, and that breakdown looks like this. We saw the breakdown, we saw retest, breakdown, then retest of that same structure. So I'm expecting that price would reject that structure to the downside, and there is a possibility that price will go further up, break out, then retest to the upside. So on a lower time frame, we want to be looking out for structures that will support a trend continuation to the downside. So moving to the daily to the 1 hour time frame, we saw this bullish trend line connecting the lower highs, and then we saw something that looks like a trend line here. Sorry, let me make this a little bit lighter. I don't want this to be thick. I don't want this to be thick. So we have something like this. And now As soon as price came into that supply zone here, we saw multiple rejections as price continued to find lower lows at this point, and we saw that 0.70650 has been holding price action since early this morning. And what this simply means that this area will be our key level going forward. So 0.77650 will be our key level going forward. Allow me to label this for clarity's sake. Key level at 0.7650. Let's place this at the top left corner, and let's make it gold as well. So we have it right here. We have a key level right here. So what we want to be looking forward to going into the New York session is that we want to be looking forward to. There are two things we want to be looking forward to. One, the first one, which is not very, which I would say is not, which is not too good, is that we look for rejection of this trend line. We look for a reversal pattern to join the decline to the downside. But this looks more very positive. If we see a breakdown of that key level, we look forward to a retest of the key level, which might also share a confluence with the bearish trend line. Then we join the rally, the decline to the downside. So what this simply means that we want to be entering a selling opportunity right below this key level at 0.70603. So we have a situation like this with a 45 pips stop loss, and we have our take profit target at 0.69400, which is approximately 120 pips. And why is our take profit target around this area? If we look left, we have structures. We have a demand structure around this area, which has pushed price to the upside at one point in time. So with that said, we have this in play. So this is my expectation on the AUDUSD going into the New York session. Now, we're already out of time, but let's quickly do this last one. New Zealand USD also share the same scenario with the AUDUSD we talked about. We have on the daily time frame, we can see we are bearish. On a long term, we are bearish. On long term, we are bearish. And going down to the 1 hour time frame, after price tested 0.64900, we begin to see lower lows and lower highs. And because of this, we want to be looking forward to a further breakdown of this area going forward. So with that being said, we want to have our key level sitting right around here. So with the key level, right, we have a support here, we had a support here. Sorry, let me show you. We had a support here, we had support here, we had multiple support level here, then we have a resistance here, making it a viable key level we can work with going into the New York session. So if you allow me, let's draw our key level right around this area. So what this simply means is that the key level shall guide our actions going forward. So one thing we want to be looking out for is we already have a rejection of that key level. We broke that key level late last night, and then we saw a rejection of that key level. So if we had not taken this rejection move, then we want to be waiting for another opportunity in the form of probably a rejection or a further breakdown of this area. Then we join at a confirmation to the downside. So this is my expectation on New Zealand USD going forward. So I think on this note, we call it a day. Let's quickly do a recap. I think 10 seconds or 5 seconds on each pair. So first of all, on UkOil, what did we say on UkOil? Okay, finally we already have a breakout of that structure on UkOil. Now, very good. We already have a breakout structure. Price has already taking us out of the previous selling opportunity we took yesterday. So now, since we had the breakout of structure, and what we want to be looking forward to is a retest of the structure, probably the retest of this trend line or the retest of this key level, whichever one that comes. And how do we know if it is mature for us to enter? We want to be looking for reversal pattern on lower time frame, let's say the 5 minutes, the 15 minutes, the 10 minutes time frame. We look for reversal pattern sitting on either the trend line or the ski level to join that potential rally to the upside. Then we still aim at $120, which is quite our aim right now. So I think that's that for now. That's that for now on the on the UkOil. And at the same time, I made mention that on the UkOil, if we do have a breakdown of this key level at 112, then a retest of that key level, retest of that trend line will support a bearish move to the downside, which we have 111.90 area, which is below that key level for any bearish momentum on this pair. So that's on the UkOil. Then moving on to USOil. On USOil, we made mention of this demand zone. We identified this demand zone, which has been holding price supported since the beginning of the week. Since the later part of last week. This level has been holding price supported, and right now we already break even on the previous sell entry we took. And what we want to be expecting now is we want to be seeing price to break above that key level, above that trend line, come back down to retest that trend line. Then we look for opportunities to take advantage of that bullish move. So for the sake of clarity, we identified this buy opportunity zone between $110 and $112, an area comfortable enough to take advantage of that bullish move when it finally begins. So that's that on the USOil. Then on the USDJPY, we are still profitable on this one, and I said for those who did not take advantage of that that move to the downside, that a retest of that key level or probably that trend line could give us another opportunity to join the decline to the downside. Moving on to CHFJPY, I said we took profit on CHFJPY yesterday, and right now we have a trend line to guide our actions. And I said if you are a counter trend trader, you can take opportunity of that trend line to the downside, that's around 80 pips into that key level. But for us long-term traders, we want to be looking for a buy opportunity right within this buy opportunity zone. We want to wait for price to come back into this key level. Remember, we've taken profit on this one. We took about I think 100 pips thereabout. So we want to be waiting again for price to come into this buy opportunity zone where we look for structure that supports a trend continuation to the upside. Now, if we buy at this point and we have a breakout of that trend line, a retest of that trend line, we can add more position to that trade, and we should be aiming at 133 Japanese yen as our take profit target, which is about 150 pips in profit. So right now, another thing I've also observed on this one is this: the likelihood that price might come into buy opportunity zone can also be questioned, because we don't know. We are on a bullish move, and if the bullish move is very strong, the tendency that price might not come back down into this buy opportunity zone is very considerable. So if that does not happen, that is, price does not come back down into the buy opportunity zone, then what we want to be looking out for is a breakout of this trend line, a significant breakout of that trend line, then a retest of that trend line when we look for opportunities to join the uptrend continuation to the upside. Excuse me. Now moving on to EURCHF. EURCHF, we're already in profit already, and price has moved. Goodness me, that's beautiful. Price has moved around. We have 40 pips here. We have the second one is moving in about the second entry around 25 pips. That's like approximately 65 pips in profit now. So at this point, I'm advising that we move our stop loss to the first entry point, which is at 1.03240. And for those who have not yet joined this trade, we want to be looking for an opportunity when price comes back down to retest this bullish trend line, then we can be looking for another opportunity to join the potential rally to the upside. So remember what I said. I said this bullish trend line shall be our guide. This bullish trend line shall be our guide going into the New York session. Allow this bullish trend line to be your guide. A retest of that trend line, you look for structures on lower time frame, let's say the 1 minute, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes time frame, to look for structures that will support a trend continuation to the upside. So now we moved on to GBP New Zealand. On GBP New Zealand, we're already running in profit already, and we are in about how many pips in profit now? We are now around approximately 80 pips in profit. And I said we waited for the signal to come. The signal came in the form of this, then came back, a retest of structure. We now joined the decline to the downside. Now, what I want to be saying here is this: if you are not yet in this trade, there are other ways to which you can take advantage of this trade if you are not yet in this trade. One is this: we have a trend line running here. We can connect the series of lower highs at this point, and then if we see price come into this trend line, into this bearish trend line, we can look for structures that support a trend continuation to the downside from this point. So we are aiming at 1.91700, which is right within a demand zone that has held price supported in the past, and we have an approximate of 300 pips profit on the GBP New Zealand. So moving on, we have XAUUSD on gold. I made mention of the fact that I am expecting a long-term bullish momentum on gold. However, we really need to see good confirmation that will support this move to the upside. We never can tell. Price can jump in from now and move right all the way up from this area. But we really need to find structures that will guide us, confirmed and tested structures that will guide our actions going forward. So for me personally, what I'm looking forward to price coming back down into probably this trend line, this key level, or coming back to retest this trend line that was broken during the course of last week's trading session, where I'll be looking for that bullish move to the upside. You see, if you're patient on this one, we can really catch a huge number of pips on this one. So what we want to be looking out for is this: we want to be looking out for structures that will support that bullish move. So, and like I said, if you are a counter trend trader, I'm also taking a counter trend opportunity on this one, which has already been triggered already, and I'm looking forward to price coming back down into this area where I would be looking forward to that bullish move to the upside.